Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is that you are listening, folks. Thank you very, very much for listening. Today is the 15th of August, year of our Lord 2025. Welcome to yet another edition of the Combing Hour, hosted by Nicholas Hinkle, a.k.a. Motown Noah. Got a big show for you guys today. Lots of stuff to talk about. Lots of good emails that I want to jump into. And so much so, actually, to such a degree that I kind of just want to jump into it. But here's the problem. Now, it's a little bit of a meta conundrum that I'm in, because as I'm working my way through this mentally on the fly, you can look at the timestamps and figure out what direction I want to go, because it's not really like I dictate the direction of the show. It's like the show dictates the direction that I go in, right? And so I don't know if I want to lead the show with the Taylor Swift New Heights episode, which has been a just dominating culture here in America the last, as I'm taping this, 24 hours. I don't know if I want to lead with that, or if I want to, because I'm sorry, we got to talk about it. We cover all the biggest stories. We cover them from all angles. Have to talk about that. Or I don't know if I want to start with emails, and specifically an email that I have not read yet and have been waiting to read from Wizards fan Tom, a.k.a. Bathroom Tom, a.k.a. Some of you may know him by his preferred nomenclature, Tom. He sent in another French email. He's still in France, and he sent in another email. And I don't know if his girlfriend, his French girlfriend, very French, like, style girlfriend. And I don't mean that, Tom. It seems like a wonderful woman. I mean that in the most, I don't know, nice way possible. He's still in France, and he sent in another email about it. I'm very captivated by the story, and I don't know which direction I want to take it in. So, down to the wire, haven't been able to figure out how I want to start it. We're going to do a coin flip. Good old-fashioned coin flip. Heads, Taylor Swift, and we'll do, like, there's another, I want to talk a little bit about Hunter Biden. So, heads, we do Taylor Swift and Hunter Biden. Tails, we do emails. We start with emails, and then we'll do, so basically it's front end, back end of the show. So let's do, without further ado, no best 2 out of 3. Heads, Taylor Swift and various media. Tails, we'll jump right into emails. So let's do it. Hey Siri, flip a coin.
It's heads.
Heads. You heard that? Undisputable from the Irish Siri herself, Saoirse Ronan style, the pride of Ireland. We're gonna jump right into emails. And I don't really know if there's a better way to start than by giving credit to whoa. Okay. Something's happening here. something is happening here. I had the email queued, and within the last 60 seconds, it's the same timestamp on the email as that I'm currently taping this. 9:23 p.m. Central Time. The email came in at 9:22 Central Time. I went to read Tom's email, which I also have not read yet, and we got an email. The subject line is all caps, I think I'm quitting you. I think I'm quitting you. From Gregory, and I can just tell from the preview that it's showing me, ooh, this looks like it might be mean. I don't know if I'm going to be able to help myself, and I don't know if I'm not going to... My grandma listens to the show, so if somebody sent in a mean email... There's been a couple mean emails this week. One of them was about South Park and how the language that they've used is like actually... It's actually aligning them with Trump. It was a horrible email. And I'm not going to read it. I'm not going to veer credit to that person. It's a horrible email. From Gregory, I think I'm quitting you. I don't think I can help myself. I have to read this. Mean emails are usually, I just ignore them. I'm not going to platform them and put them on the show. Or I will respond to them and be like, hey, you're an idiot. And here's why. I don't know what it says, though, is the thing. And I kind of... Tom, I'm so sorry. I think we have to backseat you for a second. Do you guys want to do it? I mean, you can see the timestamps. Am I doing it? All right, I think I'm about to do it. maybe this isn't as mean as the subject line suggests. Okay, copinghoursubs@gmail.com, spelled phonetically, email available in the description, wherever it is that you listen to this program. Gregory, welcome to the show. Again, subject line, I think I'm quitting you, which is in all caps, by the way. Hey, Nick, not my first time emailing, but it's probably my last. Parenthetically, you've never read a single email of mine on the show, but that's a whole different email for another day. Wait. Wait. So within 15 seconds, you contradicted yourself. I'm just bracing, by the way, that I don't know if this is going to be nasty, so I'm just bracing myself if this is going to be nasty. This guy just hit send on the email. It's one of those rare moments where I just am reading it. I get to see it immediately. This is like almost never happened on the show. So you said, not my first time emailing, but it's probably my last. And then the immediate sentence following that was, you've never read a single email of mine on the show, but that's a whole different email for another day. So it sounds like you might email in a different day. Also, by the way, I think you actually said everything that you would need to say. I've never read one of your emails, and that's kind of it. What do you have to say about me not reading any of it? Sometimes it just kind of happens. People send in great emails all the time that don't get read on the show. It just kind of happens. Sometimes I just ISO for too long and I talk about dumb shit. And then an hour goes by and I'm like, I got to get out of here and I got to go to sleep because I got to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning with my son. But let's get back to the email. Let's find out why this guy is quitting me. If this is mean, I'm going to be so sad that I'm reading this on the show because I don't know how I'm going to react to it. And I'm scared to keep reading it, but I've already committed to it, so I have to. In a recent episode, you spoke about your experiences as a father, specifically as a stay-at-home parent. I think I speak for a portion of your audience when I say that your complacency with this stage in your life is troubling to say the least. Ooh. You mean to tell me that you have no greater ambition than just being someone who raises a child? For context, I'm 31 and have a fiance that I have been with for 7 years now. We do not want kids in the immediate future, but could one day see ourselves getting there. I, however, have never once considered the fact that I would be the one staying at home, in quotes, and taking care of our potential child. I work obsessively. I'm currently pursuing a master's degree, and I have hobbies outside of those that consume massive amounts of my time. My fiance and I have agreed that whenever the time comes for children, she will be the one staying at home. I say that just to say, I'm breaking it for a second. God damn, what is this? What have we stumbled into? Whoa, time out. I don't know how to say this without sounding like I'm just making a really crude joke. Genuinely, I don't know how else to respond to what I'm reading so far. There's more to this. This is like the closest thing that we could possibly have to like a real life terrorist attack on the show, where I'm just so out of left field. What the fuck is this guy talking about? I went into this thinking, oh, we're about to read a funny email from Tom. And at the top of my inbox was this. Ooh, this is brutal. Oh, we will unpack all of this. Let me get through the rest of the email, because already the takes are bubbling. I'm praying for your fiance, by the way, but let's keep reading the email. So we left off at, my fiance and I have agreed that whenever the time comes for children, she will be the one staying at home. I say that just to say, you need to get a life. You need hobbies that go beyond whatever it is that you do all day. You don't even know me. Whoa. Flag on the play immediately. How can somebody be this hostile? This is really part of a larger take which is like people being so comfortable saying wild shit to people that they don't know. They just listen to them talk or tweet or type on the internet. Whoa. There's, again, more. Let's keep going. You don't even know me. Okay. You speak about fatherhood as if it's some greater fraternity of people that experience things that only a parent can, when it isn't. People can experience similar feelings or situations without having their lives derailed by a child. I'm done reading this. There's like 2 more paragraphs. I'm done reading this. What the fuck is this? What is this? What's going on here? What was your name? Gregory? I think you got shit going on at home that has nothing to do with me. What the fuck is this? What's going on here with this email? What's this all about? Where do I start with? You know what? Actually, and here's a better way maybe to decide how I respond to the rest of this email. What the fuck? Whoa. We just did a coin flip. In the previous episode, we spoke about Victor Wembanyama and how he has, in recent months, lived in a monastery and trained with Buddhists, monks of some denomination. And then in recent weeks, has trained with Kevin Garnett one-on-one, which then turns into very much like an angel on one shoulder and devil on one shoulder type situation for Victor Wembanyama, where he in real time will be able to assess in fractions of seconds whether or not he needs to go fucking nuts on somebody and crash the fuck out, or if he needs to chill and just sit back and be like, this isn't, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to chill. I'm learning this from the monks. Is he going Kevin Garnett style, or is he going monastery monk style? He is like giving himself the tools to make these decisions. I think we can all learn something from Victor Wembanyama. I'm really trying hard to like react on the fly. I don't know if it's coming through to you at home. We're 10 minutes into the show. I don't think we've ever started a show this way before. This is blowing my mind. I'm going to flip a coin. Heads, I'm taking the high road. Tails, I'm not. If you've listened to the show for like even a month, at the least, you know that it is in my nature to not take the high road. It's just way easier for me to do that. But heads, high road. Tails, not that. Hey Siri, flip a coin. It didn't work. Hold on. Flip a coin.
Heads.
That's the high road option. I need to. Okay, so how do I? I'm praying for the significant other in your life. That in your head, it's like, it's fine if the person staying at home is the woman, because they could not possibly have greater ambitions than what, being an incubator and then being a caretaker. So you're one of those guys that is like, women are being conditioned at a young age to be homemakers. In some ways, societally that is true, which is wrong, but it's true. Well, it's not wrong in the sense that it doesn't happen. I'm saying it's wrong in the sense that it's fucked up, but it is true. But in your head, that's like the way that it's supposed to be. Societally, you would be aligned in saying that it's women who are the ones that should stay home. Again, I think maybe you have something else going on at home, because it's not at all what I said. I said that it was something that this isn't very high road of me. What's the high road here? Do I just move on to something else? I hope your fiance cheats on you in the most aggressive way possible. And I hope that she gaslights you into making you feel like it was actually your fault that she did it, that you drove her to do it. Which, by the way, from the way that you talk to people, doesn't sound like it would be that inconceivable to think. And then I hope that when she does that, by the way, at this point, you've already married her and you guys have done your vows. I hope at that point, after she cheats on you and you find out in the most brutal way possible, I hope she kicks you out And then because you've already been married, I hope she takes you to the cleaners in whatever settlement that you guys arrive at, and the alimony payments that you have to pay for the rest of your life bleed you dry, and your master's degree doesn't mean dick or balls. And then actually, you know what? Maybe I hope that one day you guys stay together long enough. Maybe it's a longer play here, and that one day you guys have been together for 5 years and you decide that the time comes that you do want to have kids. And then for some reason, it's just not working. You know, for some parents, it doesn't happen. There are people in this world that want more than anything to be a parent. And it just, for one reason or another, the stars just don't align, and it can't happen for them. Even if it's not related to infertility, right? Sometimes it just doesn't happen. And it seems to always happen to the people who would be the best parents. And that really is devastating, honestly. For one reason or another, it just doesn't fucking happen. I hope that for a year, it doesn't work for you guys. And in your brain, you convince yourself that it has to be her. Clearly, she is the one who has bad eggs or something. And then she's the one that recommends to you a fertility test, and you find out that you have bad swimmers and it's actually your fault. I think that's what I want for you. I think that's what I hope happens. Because what this reads to me is as a man who is deeply insecure with the idea that he could be anything other than a laborer. There's nothing wrong with being a laborer. There's nothing wrong with going to work. And the life that my family and I had growing up was largely contingent on my pops available, my grandpa's ability to work his ass off for like 50 years at Ford. You know, when my dad and his brother were growing up, if they didn't have food, when their dad, my grandpa, came home from work, he would go out in the woods and he would kill something and he would bring back dinner. You know what I mean? So being a laborer is cool. But when you attach that to your entire identity, you sound like a massive fucking pussy to me. And I think maybe that you shouldn't have kids. Some people don't deserve to have kids. I think maybe your wife deserves to have a child. If she's so willing to be nurturing and to love for that child. But I think it would actually be better if she cheated on you or divorced you or said no at the altar. If she did something hilarious to you, I think that would be, I think we would all be better off that way. So I love my son very much, very deeply. There is nothing that I wouldn't do for him. I would kill for him. And I am actually very comfortable in my own masculinity and my own sense of identity. And, well, the masculinity part isn't entirely true. I have a lot of issues with that because I was never really taught what the idea of masculinity should be or is. And it is a very fluid thing, so I don't want to lie to you. I guess I don't. But to me, masculinity isn't tied to, like, whether or not I'm able to take care of a fucking kid, which, by the way, I do. Every single day. Like with my girlfriend's new job, she's at work 6 days a week for 12 hours a day, which means from when my son wakes up to when he goes to sleep, I'm the one that's taking care of him and I have to do it by myself. By the way, that kills her. That eats at her because she is conscious of how much time that she's missing. And the fact that you are so comfortable with the idea that you don't have to be part of that actually falls on her because you have ambitions. Makes it sound to me, honestly, like maybe your parents didn't love you enough. I don't know if you're the youngest child in your family and maybe you weren't hugged enough as a kid. And maybe that's where this is stemming from. Call your mom, maybe check on her and see how she's doing. Maybe just ask how she's feeling about shit. Because it sounds to me like the complacency here is actually maybe falling on you and just being the biggest piece of shit in the world. And maybe to reference something that I said earlier, it's hard to be a and in the same email, but you did somehow manage to achieve both. And in some way, I do have to admire that. And shame on me, I guess, to some extent for spending the first 20 minutes of this episode focusing on this. But I wanted to take the high road. I wanted to be as honorable as possible here. I wanted to really respect the time that you sent in to this email, which, by the way, I'm not mad at all. What you said did not bother me at all, and it did not make me mad. But I do think it's important to highlight how it made me feel. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, why don't we do the thing that we actually said that we were going to do to start the show, which is to read Bathroom Tom, a.k.a. Wizards fan Tom. Some of you may know him by his preferred nomenclature, Hot Tom. May have to add French Tom to that. I don't know. If he's in France for 2 weeks, which he is, and he's got this lovely French girlfriend, seems like maybe he's going to try to assimilate himself with the culture, which I love for him. International Tom. We've never really called him International Tom, but he really is global. Global Tom. Synonyms. He's back. In the previous email, again, this is another one. I have not read this yet. I've been waiting all day to read this email live because I don't know if his girlfriend is going to come back and type some more things and get mad at me about stuff. Or push back on anything that I said in the previous episode or maybe two episodes ago when she sent in some emails. And so I apologize if maybe you're not following along with what this French Tom and his girlfriend thing is. Again, I think it was about 2 episodes ago. You'll be able to use the timestamps to your advantage. But off the top of my head, I don't really know how to make this as concise as possible. So I am just going to continue to read it. So Tom is back. Maybe his girlfriend is back too. Maybe Victoria is back too. We'll have to find out. We will have to wait and see. The subject line is The France Series, Part 2, Criticism? And that's what, this is all caps again, by the way. So I don't know. Are we going super hostile in this episode? Is that what's happening here? Are we, the first 2 emails were firing on all cylinders and people are just getting mad at me about shit? I don't know. Let's find out. Tom, welcome back to the show. Hey, Nick. On the beach in Corsica, the island where Napoleon is from. Oh, boy. Did you just pull the pin on a French grenade in the last email? As a person who has said / had friends tell Victoria that the French can thank us for being French and not German, which, to break the email, is something that I spent 5 minutes talking about, that if it wasn't for the United States, most of Europe would be speaking German for the last 80 years. Back to the email. As a person who has said / has had friends tell Victoria that the French can thank us for being French and not German, that idea is apparently mostly wrong from the French perspective. For them, it was the French resistance led by Charles de Gaulle, G-A-U-L-L-E. It's unknowable. How am I supposed to say that? I'm sorry, Tom. Who created and communicated with the people and the world leaders to create a free France. They don't see it as a savior of other groups for them. It's a coalition that would have failed without the French resistance for them. On that note, I figured I'd get some back for America by adding my observations about Paris and, to some extent, Europe, as many of these issues are not unique to Europe, in my portion. Can I... It's not pushback. I'm not trying to do alternative history here. Can we do a history lesson, though? This is off of the top of my head. I'm doming this, okay? Maybe some of this will be wrong, but for the most part, I will say your girlfriend is right, and that the French are right, that an overlooked part of World War II's history is the role that the French resistance, after the occupation took place, that the role that they played and how integral it was to not just liberating France, but to winning the entire war, right? I actually agree that that is something that doesn't really get talked about enough, because I'm the same guy who loves to talk about how modern, present-day French citizens, but again, specifically, like we talked about in the previous email, whenever this was, 2 episodes ago, specifically Parisians, their ability to organize and protest whenever shit doesn't go their way. That didn't just start recently. That goes back to, when was Marie Antoinette and Let Them Eat Cake and her getting guillotined? I don't know. Was that the 1700s? Was that the early 1800s? I don't know when that was. That was literally the French famine. That was literally the citizens organizing and being what if we killed all of the rich people? What if we just killed members of parliament and we sent them to the guillotine, or we just straight up assassinated them? That was the people revolting and revolutionizing against an oppressive power. So this is not a new thing, right? And in World War II, after 6 weeks of fighting, the Nazis moonwalked into France, but specifically Paris, and after 6 weeks of fighting, they signed an armistice, and it was over. Dusting their hands, it was over. We're not going to fight anymore. Hitler made them sign the armistice in the same place that Germany had to sign one in World War I. So where Germany surrendered in World War I, Hitler made the French do it in the exact same place in World War II as the ultimate sign of humiliation, right? And after 6 weeks of fighting, it was over. Now, what followed that was guerrilla warfare from the French. And what were they called? I don't remember what they were called. It was I don't remember off the top of my head what they were called. But it was actually really interesting because it wasn't just like a bunch of local militias and like resistance cells just like killing a bunch of Germans. They were sabotaging electrical fields. They were distributing like underground newspapers is what they were doing. Like, what's the word that I'm looking for? Like, not like revolutionary newspapers or like clandestine newspapers, but there's a better word for it that I'm just not thinking of right now. And the way that they would have to do it was essentially, just as one example, when like fish markets or like French bars would get shipments in, they would get barrels of like name a thing, like whether it was fish or fucking tomatoes or lettuce or wine or something like that. These French resistance groups would do like cartel shit where they would line these barrels with like, the word was just right there. And it's not propaganda news, like reverse propaganda newspapers. The word's right there, dude. And I just can't think of it. This is going to piss me off. But they would hide these newspapers inside of these barrels. And so when the Nazis would inspect them, they would be like, it just looks like a bunch of tomatoes. But then when it would actually get to wherever the desired location was, these people knew where to look and to, all this information. Part of this was to combat misinformation. Part of it was to aid the recruitment effort. Because I think it was by like, I don't know, June 1944, there was like 100,000, maybe like 100,000 members of the French resistance. By the time, and this is where I start to, pivot a little bit, is by the time it was like October or November, they were pushing like 400,000 or 500,000 resistance members in France. I mean, these are literally just like local people. In the sense that like these are like an Inglorious Bastards, like these are dairy farmers, these are fucking whatever, like these are just everyday people who are being recruited and armed to fight the Nazis, to fight fascism. And the reason that saying June 1944 is so important is because that's when the Allies landed on the beaches in France, in Normandy, right? So you had the Canadians, you had the United Kingdom, and you had the Americans running joint operations in France, starting in June 1944, and it was specifically the UK and the Americans who were funding these resistance groups and who were aiding the recruitment effort, right? And so, like, the exchange of information was the Americans would help, and the British, and they would help recruit more resistance members, and then in exchange, these resistance members would run like intelligence operations to then help the Allies, right? And so there was a back and forth. And so, yes, it was important that the French were resistant, despite the fact that their actual like government military waved the white flags again after 6 months. I'm sorry, not 6 months, 6 weeks. As soon as France got invaded, it was pretty much over. But because of the French resistance, they were able to overcome it, and by 1945, Hitler was dead, and blah, 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 and France got liberated, and blah, 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 blah. But that doesn't happen unless the Americans come in, unless the British come in, and they also finance and aid the rebellion. So I'm being tongue-in-cheek when I say it was all America. It was not all America. It was not. But also, not to tell a completely alternative history, it was not like just the French. You know what I mean? So if it wasn't sabotaging electrical fields or running, like intelligence ops for the Americans and for the British, it was like kind of like what happens in Ukraine and Russia right now. Only with them, it's more like oil refineries. But it was like ammunitions depots and stuff like that. That like civilians, like real life civilians, would just blow up. And so they were just running around doing a bunch of stuff like that. Yes, they were also killing Nazis in the process. Hell yeah. Vive la France. And so there is a there's a lot of connective tissue here. There is a lot of mutually shared history. I think both of us are being a little bit too on the opposite side, that it was like, no, it was just us. The reality is that it was actually both of us. And then also the British, right? I don't want to leave them out of this too, because it was the three of us that were all working in conjunction, right? So let's get back to the email here. So we left off at Tom saying he wants to give a bunch of observations about France and about Europe as a greater continent. First, the toilets in France and bidets are not built for the average American. It just seems wrong to me when you look at it. Like, the shape of an average European toilet is just weird. As for the bidet, I feel like there are some guys who like this and some guys who don't, but the bidet is like a cold, wet finger poking your butthole. And for me, that just isn't what I want after a poop. It does make me want to write an email from the bidet, but I just can't find it comfortable. Second, water without ice is the norm around here. Wait, what? Bro, I'm in a hot European country getting served room temperature water. I don't feel refreshed. I barely feel hydrated. Maybe this is just personal, but I can't stand that I can't get a cold water from a restaurant here without asking for a cup of ice. Third, so we're pivoting to something else. That is a pretty common trope. I've heard that a million times at this point. It's like ice and air conditioning are like I don't want to say American luxuries. The ice one, I would say, is. We be using ice in everything. If I ever got something served to me that didn't have ice in it, and it was meant to have, you know what I mean? Like, if I get hot chocolate, I don't really want ice in it. I guess that wouldn't be bad because it would cool off quicker. You know, you don't have to, you get a hot chocolate, you have to spend 20 minutes just waiting until it's not, boiling hot and you can actually drink it. But you know what I mean here, right? Like, if I go to Taco Bell and I get a Baja Blast and there's no ice in it, fire in the hole, it's going right back in the window. You know what I mean? What the fuck? No way. No way. So yes, that would definitely piss me off. If I'm in I don't know, Gibraltar, it's squelching outside, and I'm like, can I get just some water, tap water? And they bring me room temperature water, bro. No way. That's crazy. I don't think, by the way, we are crazy in I don't want to say demanding ice, but it's not unreasonable that if I'm ordering a glass of water, that I don't want it to be room temperature. That's insanity. It's insanity. So Tom, I'm completely there with you. Let's get back to it. Third, the question about Trump from the European perspective in our politics is wild. To explain his appeal is so difficult because it's so uniquely American that we would have him as president. I don't think the distrust of career politicians has ever happened here, in France, he said. And it is such a core concept in American politics, IMO. That's interesting. So you said, to explain his appeal is so difficult because it's uniquely American that we would have him as president. I don't think the distrust of career politicians has ever happened here in France. And it's just a core concept in America. Really? A distrust of career politicians doesn't happen? Maybe I'm just not processing what you're saying. That doesn't make... Is that a thing? The guys mostly guys that have been in government here in America, what's the number? 50% of them have been in the government for 30 years at least. So you just kind of know the goodies and the baddies. Explaining Trump's appeal outside of America, I could understand why that would be hard to do. It's hard to explain it in America, to be honest with you. I get so offended when I was just watching a YouTube short of Tom Brady calling Wayne Rooney, saying that his work ethic is bad. The manager at Birmingham City. And all of the comments were like, oh, Tom Brady's so dumb. Why do all Americans sound like this? And blah, blah, blah. And the replies to that comment were like, well, this is a country that, voted for Donald Trump twice. They elected him twice. They're not exactly the most brightest chap. I'm like, yeah, actually not all of us did. I hate to be the whole, not all Americans guy. Also, I'm not sure that he really won that first election. I'm just still not positive that happened. I believe Russiagate is real. I really, really do. I don't think it's crazy to believe that it's real. I do think it's funny that the second time that he won, the Dems just kind of like laid down and took it. There was no pushback at all. Kamala got the shit kicked out of her so hard that they were like, yeah, whoops, we got to wear this one. There was no like anything, which in some way I guess I do admire, because if we had 3 election cycles in a row of like electorate distrust, it just would have been so damn tiresome. But as an instance, it's still interesting that that didn't happen, especially because you could argue now more than ever, it would have been easy to do it considering Russia is now actively engaged in publicly one conflict, but on the low, I mean, they've been running dark ops in Africa for how many years now? They've been funding, we don't need to do this whole thing, but like very publicly involved in one major conflict. So I just feel like it would have, whatever. How would I explain Trump's appeal to somebody who wasn't American and wanted me to know? Or I'm sorry, wanted me to let them know? I would say to them that there is an entire sect of Americans who have been disillusioned by the idea of politics and its gamification, which is not just largely but exclusively due to Trump's involvement in the presidency. Because I think it really is different. Explaining what his appeal is to the people who voted for him really is different, and you have to contextualize it completely differently for every single election cycle. I still don't really know how to do it for 2020, to be honest with you. I don't think I can. 2016 is easy for me to, I think it was bullshit, but people voted for him because it was, oh, he's shaking shit up, and he was unconventional, and people just wanted a guy who hadn't been playing the game. Like you talk about career politicians, he hadn't been playing the game his whole life. He really had, he just hadn't been doing it in Washington, you know what I mean? And so it was easy for people to vote for him that year. I turned 18 that year. I was eligible to vote. I just didn't register because I thought there was no fucking chance that he was going to win. And so I didn't think, like many Americans out there, didn't think it was important to vote that year. Most of the time, I don't think it's that important to vote. But I didn't in 2016, even though I could have. 2020, I voted, and I voted for Joe. I didn't want him to win, but I was like, I also don't want Trump to win, so I'll just vote for Joe. That was the year. That in 2016 was the year that I just think anybody who is left-leaning and has a brain was hoping that Bernie wasn't going to get hoed in the primaries, and then rest assured, of course, that fucking happened. I remember when he was in Chicago and just the absolute insanity that the city became for that rally. 2024, why am I still talking about this? Why am I don't care. He won again, and it happened. It was a thing that happened. People voted for him because, again, they became disillusioned and because they fell victim to the propaganda of Kamala wants to pay for transgender surgeries for prisoners, for migrant prisoners. That was like an ad campaign that ran every NFL Sunday. Well, every day of the week, but specifically during NFL Sundays. You had like Charlemagne the God in a fucking commercial being like, what you want to pay for these transgender surgeries for migrants in prison? It was like a whole thing. They're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs. A real thing that Trump said during a debate. And it was maybe the hardest I've ever laughed at anything he's ever said ever because it was so fucking wild. That guy won the election. He said the 3 things that Donald Trump has said and it has gotten him elected, or rather he got elected in spite of this shit happening, was grab him by the pussy, got elected a month later. I could shoot somebody on camera on Fifth Avenue and people would still vote for me. Yep, they did. He got elected. And then they're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs in, what was it, Springfield, like Ohio, maybe? And he got elected. And that didn't matter. He got elected. Him and Joe Biden bitched about their golf handicaps for like 5 minutes during a presidential debate. He still got elected. Because Joe had the worst performance you've ever seen from a presidential candidate that you've ever seen in your fucking life. Or, if it wasn't that they got fucking brainwashed, it was that they are so distrustful of the idea of immigrants being in the country, for one reason or another, that they knew that that was another lie, is border czar Kamala Harris letting all these brown people into the country. She was not the border czar. I don't even know. I don't want to say this. She wasn't. But that worked. That worked on people, and so they voted for him, and he won. Does that explain the appeal at all? It's brain rot. It's just internet brain rot. It's misinformation, whether it originates from like foreign or domestic descent is unknowable. I feel like it was proven pretty conclusively that the 2016 election was meddled with by the Russians. This most recent election cycle in 2024, people just kind of were like, well, Trump won, and I guess that's kind of it. So let's get back to Tom's email here. Finally, I'm going to add some small ones that I think make sense, but I'll let you be the judge. American Express and some American cards don't work here, despite us being the biggest group of tourists. There is definitely not the same level of air conditioning in Europe as there is in the United States. That is definitely a bit of a case-by-case situation here, but I'll stand behind my take. Finally, the smaller portions of food here in Europe, roughly for the same cost after currency conversion to the dollar, just make you feel like they are giving you a raw deal. I hope you're having a great day, and we'll follow up with a positive soon. Hell yeah. And that's that's it. That's Tom's email. The air conditioning thing, we actually called that out. We lumped that in with the ice. So good job me for getting ahead of that one. Called that one out. We're 40 minutes into today's show. Fuck. Still have a lot of things to talk about. Sorry about that, folks. What was here? Yeah, what is the conversion rate, do you think, to American dollars? Because I feel like that's only gone down. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I always used to think that we had the best money. I always used to think that America money would just get you anything anywhere. I thought you could just go to like Eritrea. That's a terrible country to use as an example, because I'm sure the American dollar actually gets you very far there. But like even the dollar to like the English pound, we've always been behind on that one. So if I go American dollar to French, what is it even? A Macron? One Macron, please. I have $5 to French dollar. I don't know what it is over there. Is it just a euro? I don't know. It's this is not the fucking conversion rate that I wanted at all. It says that 1 USD is 6 French bucks. That doesn't sound right at all. Their money's worse? Is their economy that bad? There's no way. French, I thought I could just Google this. So if 1 French franc is 16 cents. Wait, so whose economy is bad? If I can give you 16 cents and I get $1 back. Oh, it's theirs. Theirs is bad. So yeah, 10 US dollars is 61.86 French francs. Wait. Are they okay over there? What's going on? And wait, let's Google this. Will this give it? Is France's economy stable? An AI generative response here. France's economic stability is currently facing some headwinds, with growth expected to slow down in 2025. While the country is still a major economic power, right? That's what I thought. Various factors such as fiscal adjustments, economic policy uncertainty, and weak investment are contributing to a more cautious outlook. However, there are also positive signs, including a projected decrease in inflation. And so is it inflation? Is that what it is? So they're not good right now? Oh, I just always assumed, like, I remember Brexit happening, and that was maybe the closest in my lifetime that I know about that the US dollar got to the English pound. Look, I don't know if this is, what a weird episode. US dollar to English pound. It's got to be what? A United States dollar is what? I don't think it's $2, 2 pounds. You think like a pound 50? 1 pound 50 quid? 50 pence, rather? Wait, what? This says... Oh, no, okay, yeah, this makes sense. Okay. Sorry, I had that backwards. Everything I just said was backwards. I should have said it the other way around, because I knew theirs was worth more. I had that backwards. It says that right now, 1 USD is 74 pence. Yeah, okay. That's still pretty close. I'd say it's It's probably closer to a 1-to-1 than I would. Let's fucking get off of this. I'm sorry, Tom. I've smoked this. I've completely smoked this. I hope you're having an amazing vacation with your girlfriend. I hope she's having a lovely time hosting you in her country. And I'm excited for whenever part 3 comes. copinghoursubs@gmail.com, spelled phonetically. Email available in the description wherever it is that you listen to this program. This one comes into us from Jackson. Jackson, welcome back to the show, brother. Subject line, Detroit versus everybody. Hey, Nick. Just wanted to get your thoughts on who is on the Mount Rushmore of Detroit sports villains. And why are 3 of them Matt Patricia and the last one is Jim Joyce? I'm a Chicago sports fan, and mine are Aaron Rodgers, Corey Perry, Bill Laimbeer, and the city of St. Louis. Aaron Rodgers is a good one. That's a really good one. I think, you know what? And honestly, anybody who is a fan of a team in the NFC North probably has him at the very least as an honorable mention. But I don't think there's anybody other than Bears fans who can have him like unequivocally as maybe number 1. Is the funniest thing on the field that Aaron Rodgers ever did? Damn, this was so funny. It was one of his last years that he was in Green Bay. I don't remember if it was a rushing touchdown or if he just had like a sick pass, if it was a comeback. I don't remember what the context of it was, but I remember he was in Soldier Field, just right down the street here in Chicago. And he was like, he gets caught on the mic being like, just yelling at the fans, I own you. I own you. I've always owned you. It's the funniest shit in the world. A, because he's right. B, because that's an insane thing to say to the fans. And C, because it's shit like that that makes sports awesome, is when like this is going to sound dumb, but when the players acknowledge the rivalry and acknowledge the history of the rivalry as it's happening. Like, it's one thing to do it in like a post-game press conference or in the media in the off season, you're on a podcast or something like that. But for Aaron Rodgers to, again, I think it had to have been a rushing touchdown because I swear he was in the back of the end zone when he did it, or like the corner of the end zone. I own you. I've always fucking owned you. It's the funniest shit in the world. Again, I think Bears fans have the rightful claim to this. Anecdotally, here's something for you. The Hail Mary that Aaron Rodgers threw in Detroit on, was that a Monday night game to win the game? I was in high school when that happened, and I remember laying in my bed. I had a TV in my bedroom. I fell asleep in the middle of the game because it was a school night for me, and I just fell asleep watching TV. It happens. I woke up the next morning, and while I was eating my cereal, it was on ESPN.go.com, and I saw that happened. I have only ever seen that play once. I've never watched the replay ever again. If I watch YouTube videos and they do compilations of like the top 10, game-winning plays of the last 15 years or whatever, some compilation one way or another. And if I see that clip is about to play, I skip it. I will never watch that again. I've only in my life ever seen the actual Hail Mary one time. I just know that there was a face mask, a phantom face mask that got called that set up that play, I think is what it ended up being. At this point, it was like, it had to have been over 10 years ago. At this point, it had to have been. So, nope, never gonna, I'm good. Did Aaron Rodgers own the Lions? Yeah, he probably did. But I never really, it sucked every time you played the Packers and you're like, well, here's a fucking loss. Except for when he was on the back end of his Packers career, like literally his last season in Green Bay. And it was Kirby Joseph that picked him off like 100 times in the 2 games that we played. Pussy. Sorry, that wasn't nice at all. I like Aaron Rodgers. That was not nice at all. But it did feel good that we were the ones that ended his career in Green Bay. I don't think I would put him on the Mount Rushmore of Detroit sports villains. You did, I'll be honest, hit the nail right on the head. It's Matt Patricia 3 times and then Jim Joyce. Yeah. If I don't want to participate in the mental exercise, yeah, I would just say that. Because the truth is, even if I do the mental exercise, I think Matt Patricia has to be 2 of them. Because I really like to think of myself as a guy who, despite maybe how I make it seem sometimes, like if I am not making it perfectly clear that I'm kidding about something, I do think I do a good job of, just as a guy, I like sports. I try not to take it that seriously. I don't actually hate anyone, because of like shit that happens in sports, because Scott Van Pelt has one of the greatest quotes of all times of all time, which is sports is the most important thing in the world that literally doesn't matter at all. I think that's really a good way to look at it. I try not to like actually hate people. I don't think there's anybody, I mean this from the bottom of my heart, in the world that I hate more than Matt Patricia. I don't think there's anybody in the world that I hate more than him. Because of what he did to the Lions, what he did to what was supposed to be the golden age of Detroit Lions football. Now, obviously, we moved past it, and if that didn't happen, then Sheila Ford Hamp would not have fired him and Bob Quinn after the Thanksgiving game when we got fucking embarrassed. And there's that very famous picture of her. Sheila Ford Hamp is the owner of the Lions. Her up in the box with her with her face in her hands and being like, what the fuck, or what even is this? I can't do this anymore. She had recently just taken control of the entire franchise after Martha Ford was like, I'm a million years old and I can't do this anymore. So Sheila took over, and one of her first, it really was akin to like Adam Silver was the commissioner of the NBA for 2 weeks, and then the Donald Sterling shit happened. And the first thing that he did was to ban Donald Sterling for life. Literally, Sheila Ford Hamp took over the team, and essentially the first thing that she did was fire Matt Patricia and fire Bob Quinn. There will never be a guy for the rest of my life, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, that I fucking hate with a passion in sports more than I hate Matt Patricia. It enrages me. There's a legitimate fire in my fucking stomach when I hear his name or when I see him on TV. And he doesn't really do real TV, but he did have a podcast that he was doing with Bill Belichick. And I thought it was criminal. I thought it was the most disgusting shit in the world that guy was allowed to talk about football because of what he did to the Lions. I remember his first game as a head coach. I remember it was that another Monday night game? It had to have been. It was a primetime game against the Jets at home. Sam Darnold's rookie season, his first game in the NFL ever in the regular season. The first play of the game, the first pass of Sam Darnold's career was a pick six to, was it Glover Quinn? If I can get deep in my bag, I think it was Glover Quinn that picked off that ball and housed it. Lions fans, I apologize if I'm wrong, but I think it was him. And it was bedlam in the fucking stadium. We were going to the Super Bowl for one play. I think the Lions lost by 40 after that. Sam Darnold's first game of his career, the first pass that he ever threw was an interception. And then by the end of the game, we lost by 40 points. Now, what was probably the only highlight of his entire tenure as the head coach of the Lions was actually that same season. It was his first year as the Lions head coach. What was it, the third or fourth game of the year that they played New England, and it was at home. Matt Patricia had just come over from the Patriots as the defensive coordinator. His last game as the DC in New England was the game, the Super Bowl against Philadelphia, where Nick Foles, the fucking Philly special, Philly fans swear to God that they invented that play. The Lions had run it 8 weeks prior, and we didn't even invent it, but because it was in the Super Bowl, it's the Philly special. It just bothers me that they didn't invent that play, but Eagles fans think they fucking invented that play. Doesn't matter because it was awesome. Nick Foles was awesome that season. I still can't believe that shit happened. And that was also the same game. Tom Brady on a very similar play, just goofball, dropped the ball. That was, I think, also the game that Malcolm Butler, for reasons that I don't think we know still to this day, why he wasn't allowed to play in that game for disciplinary reasons. Bill Belichick was like, Malcolm Butler is not suiting up in this game. I don't think that would have been the difference between them winning and losing the game. Malcolm Butler was a perfectly fine corner, perfectly fine DB in the NFL. But he did just have the biggest play, one of the biggest plays in the history of the Super Bowl. And so everybody just kind of associated him with a fucking lockdown. He wasn't Darrelle Revis, you know what I mean? But he was perfectly fine, but he didn't get to play in that game. And the Patriots defense just got absolutely clowned in the Super Bowl. And so we went from that defensive coordinator with the Patriots. It's a fucking rocket scientist. Everybody loves the pencil that he had behind his ear at all times, including during his introductory press conference. He's got a damn ATV that he's riding around by himself at training camp and shit like that. Fucking hated this guy. So all that build up just to say, the Lions, third or fourth game of the year, we haven't won a game yet. Patriots coming to town It's in Ford Field. Matt Patricia playing his old team immediately after losing them a Super Bowl. The Lions hadn't had a 100-yard rusher in a single game. I mean, how many years had it been? 5 years? I think it was 2013. Reggie Bush rushed for 100 yards in a game. And then for 5 years, not one running back rushed for 100 yards until that Patriots game. It was Kerryon Johnson. It would have had to have been Kerryon Johnson. A guy that, damn, did he exist in such a bullshit era of the Lions, because he really was something. I think he really was good. Special? I don't know. But he was good, and it sucked that he got banged up so hard. But it just pissed it, man. And that's the thing that Lions fans, the reason that we carry the water for Stafford to this day the way that we do is because during his prime, he went 5 fucking years without a run game. Our run game was like what you see in the NFL now with quarterbacks like Brock Purdy. And that's not to slight Brock Purdy, by the way, or like a J.J. McCarthy in college, or like, I don't know, who's another guy, where like their average air yards per completion is like 1.5 yards, because a lot of these teams in the NFL supplement their run games with just like short yardage passing shit. You know what I mean? And whether it's out of the backfield or whether it's just a screenplay or something that gets set up, and it's like, distribute the ball to your playmakers out in space. That is your job for the most part in the NFL as a quarterback these days. Not your job, and not any quarterback, but a lot of the talented ones, like that's what you see from these guys, right? Is they don't have to bomb it 50 yards. You know, Tyreek Hill is down there somewhere. No, it's like, get it to your best guy, get him some blockers, and let him do the rest. You know what I mean? Like Jahmyr Gibbs is a guy. It's like, just give him the ball and he will go do something. You know what I mean? He's got the speed. He's got the quickness. He's got the elusiveness. He's got the synonyms. Okay, so there was that game, and that was it. That was it. I don't think there's anybody who has just absolutely destroyed a franchise the way, and their window, the way that Matt Patricia did. And so, yeah, for the rest of my life, there's nobody that I'm going to hate more than him. Jim Joyce, to make this one short, was the one that ruined Armando Galarraga's perfect game in 2000, was that 10 or 11? It was the only 28-out perfect game in the history of Major League Baseball. And I remember as watching it live as a kid, was probably, replay hadn't been implemented yet. There was no, you couldn't go to replay. Jim Joyce just smoked the call. Was it, who was it? Who was it that was, it doesn't matter who hit the ball. I was going to say Travis Hafner. It was not Travis Hafner. But he was out by 1.5 steps. And Miguel got it in time. Armando got him the ball in time. It was a tough play. Jason Kipnis? Was it maybe Jason Kipnis? That doesn't sound right either. It doesn't matter who it was. I remember as a kid just being so pissed that he ran that ball out and didn't just like give him the perfect game. In retrospect, that's not a reasonable thing to be mad about. But so you nailed it. This is a very long-winded way of saying you nailed it. It is Matt Patricia and it's Jim Joyce, but it really is a matter of like who else is on there. And for me, I only want to go in my lifetime, because if I go beyond that, we're going to be here forever. I don't want to do a whole spiel about Michael Jordan. I don't want to do a whole spiel about like Claude Lemieux. I don't want to do a whole spiel about Wayne Gretzky's punk ass dad, but I could do that one, but I'm not going to do it. So it's basically like from 1998 to 2025, who would I put on this list? Again, you nailed the first two. It does get a little bit tricky because you could say Ken Holland, former general manager of the Detroit Red Wings, for, another guy who did a terrible job navigating the Red Wings through some formative years, I guess you could say. Like, you get to the tail end of this insane playoff streak, and then Ken Holland did nothing to fix it, and then just like kept getting hired after us, which is insane. You could say Chris Ilitch. After Mike Ilitch passed away, the Ilitch family and the this holding group and they just kind of cheaped out, and they just wouldn't really spend money, and it really stunk and really soured like the legacies of, I think, specifically the Tigers. I think they just did a terrible job. But then if you also talk about the Tigers, I mean, you could say Brad Ausmus, Houston Astros legend, Brad Ausmus. You could say the managerial job that he did with the Tigers. You talk about, navigating yourself through the dark times, and how the Tigers went from like 2010 to 2015, were consistently one of the best teams in baseball, had the single best starting five that you've ever seen in your fucking life. They had Miguel Cabrera. I mean, they had hitters. They had V. Mart. They had Yoenis Cespedes for like 10 games. They had Prince Fielder for like 2 years. Like, if you just go through those rosters, it's insane that they didn't win anything besides like division titles and one pennant. And Brad Ausmus on the tail end of all of that just really made it worse. So you could say him. You could also say, if you wanted to, Anthony Hitchens. Anthony Hitchens, what was he, a linebacker for the Cowboys? You take it back to the Lions. Who would have been the coach at the time? Would it have been Jim Schwartz, or was that Jim Caldwell? I guess I don't remember. But it was a pass interference call on Brandon Pettigrew in the fourth quarter of the wild card round. And the flag got thrown. He was face guarding. It was the most obvious pass interference you've ever seen in your life. And then the refs identified that, and they threw the flag. And then Des Bryant, with his helmet off, ran out onto the field, which is a flag in and of itself, which did not get called. Des caught the ball. I don't care, because he ran onto the field. I don't know what the timeline was, if that was a year earlier or a year later, or a month. Was it a week after that the Des catch? I don't remember, again, what the timeline on that was, but the reason I never give a shit about if Des caught the ball, A, was because, well, he didn't get a flag thrown on him in the Detroit game when he should have. And B, because all this Des caught the ball shit happened to fucking Calvin Johnson when he played the Bears. Week 1, what was it, 2008? It had to have been, because I think John Kitna was the quarterback. It would have won the game, but because he didn't complete the process on his way to the ground, again, replay just like didn't exist. And so they were like, oh, he did not complete the process. That shit did not count. That was not a touchdown, even though he did fucking catch the ball and it was a touchdown. Okay, people didn't care when it happened to Calvin because it was a regular season game, week 1. But because it happened to fucking Des Bryant, which, by the way, just to cover my bases, he caught the ball. Let's be honest. He caught the ball, Packers fans. He caught that motherfucker. It's neither here nor there. Anthony Hitchens, they picked up that flag inexplicably. They discussed it, and it wasn't a flag, and the Lions went on to lose that game. That call might not have changed anything, but in my head, it always will. You could put Crosby on there, Sidney Crosby. I think there are a lot of hockey fans out there, I would wager most of them, honestly, that have gotten over hating Crosby, and he's at a point in his career in the late stages where they just kind of are like, you know what, man? You're one of the greatest to ever do it. And it was really fun when you played the villain. But, now we look at it through a retrospective lens and just how talented you were. And still are. But you win, what was it? So it ended up being 3 Stanley Cups. I think he went to 4 of them. But he won 3 because they won in 2009 against the Red Wings. And then there was at some point in the mid-2010s, I think they went back-to-back, didn't they? Now, what's important there is that they also lost in 2008 to the Red Wings because they fucking sucked and they deserved to lose. They also deserved to lose in 2009. Just a guy, Sidney Crybaby is what everybody called him. I don't know if I've ever hated anybody in hockey more than Sidney Crosby. And then in sports in general, I think behind Matt Patricia, I think it's Sidney Crosby. I just have always hated him. But I will say with Crosby, it's different because I hate him because of how damn good he is. Where I hate Matt Patricia because I hate him because I think he's a horrible person. Because he coached my football team so unbelievably poorly and like ruined my life for like 2 years. Where Sidney Crosby was just responsible, which he wasn't even in Game 7. I don't think he didn't score. Wasn't it like Malkin that scored? I loved Evgeny Malkin. I loved Marc-Andre Fleury. I didn't have a problem with the Pens. I had a problem with Sidney Crosby. Fuck that kid. He's a grown-ass man. But in 2008 and 2009, he was not, right? And I hate him from like the fun, like the sport of it, the rivalry factor of it, where you beat my team beat your team, and we butted heads for, a couple of years there. And so it's just more like lighthearted and like kind-spirited with him, despite maybe how I've made it sound. I don't actually hate him as a man. I just hate him because he was responsible for one of the worst days of my life, which was when the Wings lost in 2009 in Game 7 at home. And what was crazy is the final seconds of the Stanley Cup in 2008 and 2009 2008 and 2009, Game 6 and Game 7 respectively. The final seconds of them were identical in the goalies, just like, fractions of millimeters away from losing it for their team, but just hanging on to it. So I've named a lot of guys here. You could really take your pick. I don't know who else you could throw out there. I think I kind of covered it. There are maybe a couple honorable mentions in there. A funny honorable mention for the Lions, Eric Ebron. You guys remember when he would just drop every single pass that would get thrown at him? And then naturally, as it goes on Twitter, sports fans tweeting at players. Well, everybody would just tweet at Eric Ebron being like, hey, I'm not trying to sound rude, but it would be nice if you caught a pass, like one. Wasn't he a first-round pick? Brother, we drafted a tight end in the first round. It would be sick if you could catch the ball. Look it in, But he would just like go at everybody on Twitter and be like, I fucking hate you all, and I hate the Lions, and blah, blah, blah. And then he went on to play for another team or two and stunk. We were like, yep. It's kind of how it goes, brother. So not worthy of being on because he just wasn't that consequential. But he was actually another guy that was in was he a Bob Quinn draft pick? He might have been. That's like generally he was on the teams that Matt Patricia was coaching. So I guess that kind of sounds right. I don't know. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head if there's anybody else that I can think of. I was talking to some people about this earlier. I don't know. I said Aaron Rodgers. If we went like greater, Matt Millen actually is probably a good one. Old Lions GM. The fact that he gets to like be in a broadcast booth and call football games pisses me off to this day. I guess if you're a Michigan fan, you could just go like the state of Ohio in general. You can't say David Ortiz just because he hit the grand slam. It was Big Papi, bro. He's not a villain. He just hit a nuke at like the worst possible time. That's not really his fault. Brett Favre. Nah, I don't know. I would hate Aaron Rodgers more than I hated Brett Favre, to be honest. Outside of that, I don't think I'm ever going to be a guy who hates Darko. That's not, I don't really want to even revisit that conversation because I don't think it's worth it. But, okay. What else do I got for you guys today? I said I was going to do this. I have to do it. Look, it's the Coping Hour. We cover all the biggest stories. We cover them from all angles. One of the angles or stories maybe that we cover is media and cultural phenomena. Now, I got to tell you, when it got put on the world's radar that Taylor Swift was going to be going on this New Heights podcast with her boyfriend, Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce, I sunk my teeth into this immediately because my first thought to this whole thing was this is going to be the single most viewed / listened to episode of a podcast that has ever come out ever, period. Now, rest assured that is the case. And my prediction was on YouTube that it would be at 10 million views within 12 hours. It was 8.7, so I was a little bit off. Brother, I was checking on this during its premiere. I love that they treated this like it was a primetime event. It was 7 o'clock Eastern time that they premiered this episode. I don't know if you saw this. I don't know if you heard about this. The number of concurrent viewers, its peak of this episode, watching live at one time the premiere of this episode, 1.3 million people. Huh? This is like, it really is like the Beatles playing the Ed Sullivan Show. This is something that you don't see because this isn't a woman that does long-form content. She does not have these long-form sit-down conversations with people. It's the first podcast that she's ever done before. And as you can expect, I will be giving you a breakdown I'll spark note it for you so that you don't have to sit through like the 2 hours of them having a conversation if you don't care. Well, I got to tell you what my first note was. It's not very kind. It's not very nice, but it just happened to be the first thing that I noticed because they were pushing, Wave was very smart about this. They were pushing short form content to like tease it and to build it up, right? And as soon as they started doing that, I noticed four things. One, they were all able to identify this as something that will be immortalized and will be etched into the walls of the internet's history as like a holy shit, I can't believe this thing happened, right? Just by sheer numbers alone, the amount of people that were going to watch this thing, right? So the first thing is, oh, that's funny. Travis Kelce got a haircut. We've been seeing pictures of him at camp. He got a haircut for this. The second thing, wow, Jason Kelce dyed his beard. That's funny. Dyed his beard. No shame in these two things up front. No shame in them. People be getting their haircut. People be dyeing their beards. It's a thing that happens. The fourth thing, that Taylor Swift, is she getting some Botox or what? I think I'm getting decent. I'm getting medium at identifying and like Botox policing. No shame in any of the things that I have mentioned. People also be getting Botox. It's a thing that happens. But I did think it was fun. No, first of all, nobody's skin is that clear. It's just not. I don't care if you're a billionaire. If you're a billionaire, that means you have the means to like get Botox the way that she clearly did for this. And then also a little conspiracy that I formed, which is not substantiated by anything other than my own two eyes, which is, yes, Taylor Swift has bangs. She's had bangs. It's just like a look that she likes. And first of all, I think it works for her. Looks nice. But the second thing is, it is easy for somebody to have bangs and get Botox because then it's covering up 30 to 40% of the facial expressions that you would be making and would, I don't want to say have to hide, but like one way for those of you out there who maybe don't know, to identify if somebody is getting Botox isn't just like how clear their skin is and are there no wrinkles in their skin like at all, like specifically their forehead, right? Like when I make faces, like if you're watching today's episode, like right now when I raise my eyebrows, what do you see? You see a bunch of lines, right? Because I'm all natural, because I'm not getting Botox. I don't care when people get Botox, but it's, as an instance, it's just funny that the bangs cover her forehead and largely cover her eyebrows. So when she gets expressive or like emotive, there's not a lot going on her face. And so you know what I mean? So that's kind of how you can tell that like your shit is like, rah, you can kind of tell, right? But I love it for all of them. You all wanted to look at your absolute best and be at your most confident when you recorded this thing because you knew how many people were going to watch it forever. And rest assured, in the first 24 hours, the last I checked, it was at like, I think maybe like 12 million in just under 24 hours. That's a lot of people. And by the way, that's just on YouTube. So that does not factor in social breakouts or the video form on Spotify or the amount of like Stan accounts that are going to segment shit off and put it on Twitter or put it on Instagram or put it on TikTok. Like it's unknowable what the reach of this thing is going to be, right? So that was the first thing I noticed is the not drastic, but the appearance changes of all of them for the very special occasion. Now, some other notes from this thing. What did they talk about in it? What did they talk about for 2 hours? They talked a lot about their relationship between Travis and Taylor, which I thought was interesting because there's truly not that much insight from those two directly about it, and to just hear them very candidly talk about shit was interesting to me just as somebody who loves, celebrity couples and just the idea of celebrity and people who are that famous, which ultimately is why I like Taylor so much. I like her music, but I am more just interested in the idea that somebody can be as famous as she is and like what comes with that. Well, what's interesting is you listen to them talk, and we've known this about Taylor for a really long time. Could you just be any more millennial at all? Jesus Christ. I mean, so like, just like so Tumblr, and so like Tortured Poets Department in and of itself is super Tumblr pilled. And watching her and Travis together really, to me, was horrible to watch. But I also love them, and I'm rooting for them, and I cannot wait for them to get married. because I think it's going to be the wedding of the fucking century. I can't wait to watch that. Is there something for the 2026 bingo sheet, by the way? Is Travis and Taylor's wedding is streaming on, like, Prime? Where do we think that's going to go? Do you think she has a good relationship with Bezos? She's a billionaire. She might. I don't know. It's going to stream somewhere. It's going to be like the royal wedding. Like, you will be able to watch that somewhere. You know what I mean? I'm excited for it. I'm going to watch it, and I'm rooting for them. But damn, bro, they're so high school. But it makes complete sense for them because that's just kind of who they are as people. But oh my God, it's so on the nose and like just brutal to me to watch. Oh, two people in love and you got to find a reason to hate it. I guess. Maybe that's what I don't know. There was a portion where they spent about 10 minutes talking about sourdough. Yeah, the bread. And Taylor just like post-Eras Tour, how she's just gotten really into making sourdough. It was such a mundane conversation. And it's like, you've gone so long, Miss Girl, not showing personality because of the way that you'll be persecuted if you show even an ounce of personality. Like, we've talked about this on the show with, like, Sabrina Carpenter. Like, God forbid she shows personality, and people are just going to be like, you're a whore. Like, that's just what they do. Okay. SZA shows a little bit of personality, and they're like, you're a bitch. I don't know. Whatever they say about SZA. If you're Nicki Minaj, you're going to be like, you're a bitch, and I hate you. Shit like that. You see these, like, whatever. I don't need to go down this rabbit hole again. And then Taylor shows a little bit of personality, and you're like, God damn, you're so, so boring. It was like 10 minutes that they talked about sourdough. I'm happy she has a hobby. We've known that she likes cooking for a really long time. Happy for her. Sounds like she's having a really good time post-Eras Tour. So despite how I just made it sound, I am actually very happy for her. They did talk about her getting her masters back to all of her songs. And just like, even Travis teared up and he was emotional when he found out about it. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. I'm sure he did. I'm happy for them. It's cool. But it's crazy that I sat through so much of this, and even though I was entertained by it, I was just like, what are y'all talking about? Maybe one of the most fun parts was actually her talking about, I didn't realize how much she, like, for real knows ball. Like, for real knows ball. And I guess the way that this is coming out and the way that I'm hearing myself say all this is like, damn, when she's talking about how much she loves her boyfriend, or when she's talking about, like, baking sourdough, I'm like, shut up. This is boring. But the second she starts talking about ball, my ears perk up. And I'm like, hell yeah, girl. It does sound like that's what I'm saying. Because that is what I've said. But it was, I don't know. I guess I've always just assumed that she, like, medium cares about it. Like, she's just supportive of Travis Kelce. And she just enjoys the spectacle and enjoys being at the games. I just kind of thought that was it. No, it sounds like she, like, actually loves ball, which was cool. Jared Goff got name dropped, which was cool. I guess that you've maybe seen this clip circulating on social media where she was like, yeah, I just thought that, like, Josh Allen and Jared Goff, like, lined up against each other, like, on both sides of the ball. That's very funny. That's funny. I guess I would be curious to know. I don't know. They talked about the media coverage of their relationship, and then they talked about the new music that she has coming out. Yeah. Maddie, my girlfriend, for those of you who don't know, was not happy about this episode at all. She hates this woman. She hates the tirade that she went on this morning when she is getting ready for work, and I'm just out in the living room. Me and Roman are just kind of like playing, and I just have this episode on in the background. I'm finishing the back half of it. And she comes out, and she's about to leave for work, and she just goes on a 10-minute rant about how much she hates this woman. And I'm like, no, but, like, watch this part and watch this part. She's like, don't care. Fucking hate this woman. Taylor's got a new album coming out, TS12, The Life of a Showgirl. I'm going to listen to it immediately. Sabrina Carpenter is featured on it. Ever fucking heard of her? As it stands, there are 12 songs on it. How long do you think that until that expands to, like, 30? Because even if until the day that the album releases, which is October 3rd, it's October 3rd. Shout out to Mean Girls. Even if until that day it is at 12 songs, you know how she operates. You know how it's going to go. She's going to release 6 different variants that each have 4 different tracks, parenthetically, from the vault. and it's just going to inflate it, and we're going to drive up the numbers. We're going to hit the charts. We're going to be a quintuplionaire by the time this cycle is over. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. Again, despite maybe the way that I've made it seem and that I've actually was just annoyed watching the whole thing. No, I just was very entertained just getting to see somebody that famous, and specifically her, just like be a person, because we just don't, I feel like, despite what maybe her fans would say, I just don't think we know that much about her as a person. And like truly like what it is like to hear her have an unfiltered conversation, despite the fact that it was very heavily edited. But for the most part, 2 hours of listening to her talk, it was fine. I liked it. Was it fine, or did you like it? I liked it. And I thought it was fine. But you know what else was crazy is like simultaneously this massive episode with Taylor Swift comes out. Bro, Andrew Callahan at Channel 5, he did another hit with Hunter Biden. We got more Hunter Biden? Whoa! Now, it was actually funny. So the chronicle of this, and we covered the first interview that they did on the show, I don't know, was that 2 weeks ago at this point? Andrew Callahan does a 3-hour interview with Hunter Biden. Now, for anybody who is not invested in American politics, who Hunter Biden is may be a complete blind spot, but he is who he sounds like. He's the son of Joe Biden, right? He has worked in the federal government, and the right-leaning members of American society would lead you to believe that he has had something to do with fucking anything for the previous, 3 election cycles, but mainly the previous 2 election cycles. And he became a very crucial figure in American politics, despite the fact that he was not fucking running for president. And so the first interview was diving into his laptop and his crack addiction and the fact that he loved smoking cigs and the fact that he loves his dad and blah, blah, blah. We already covered this. Well, then a week later, there's another video that comes out, and it was just him and Andrew Callahan hanging out in Hunter's garage, painting and just shooting the shit. But mainly the focus was on Jeffrey Epstein and what Trump's potential ties to him would be and blah, 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 blah. And in there, Hunter Biden referenced something that Michael Wolff, a biographer who has had, has had, past tense, dozens of conversations one-on-one on the phone, over email, and in-person one-on-one with Jeffrey Epstein himself. And all Hunter Biden was doing was referencing something that he said, which is that Trump and Melania met because of Jeffrey Epstein. He was the mediator. The first time that they had sex was on, what was the name of the plane? Air Lolita, something like that. The first time they had sex was on Epstein's plane on their way down to Little St. James. And that's all Hunter Biden said. And he was like, there's maybe something here. I don't know. Maybe there's something here. I don't know. Well, Melania Trump, the First Lady of the United States, who is not at all miserable and not at all being held captive and hasn't been for the last 9 years. That's not true. That's not happening. It's fiction. Made it up. That's totally not true. She is suing Hunter Biden for $1 billion in damages. And Andrew Callahan and Hunter Biden sat down for another 45 minutes, and they had a conversation about that. Actually, in the middle of that conversation, too, Andrew Callahan cuts to a mini 10-minute conversation that he had with Michael Wolff, which was very interesting to hear. But Hunter said something. So basically, the ethos of the lawsuit is, if Hunter Biden doesn't apologize and retract the shit that the speculative comments that he made about the origin of Donald Trump and Melania's relationship and how it may or may not have been mediated by Jeffrey Epstein, if he doesn't walk that back and apologize, he will be sued for $1 billion. Hunter Biden's response to that was pretty much verbatim, fuck no. He loves to say fuck. I love it. Fuck no. I'm not saying sorry, and I'm not taking any of it back. Because I didn't say anything. I was just saying stuff, And then he says something that I thought was interesting. He was like, they can sue me, and I don't even have to countersue. If they go through with this, they're going to get deposed. At the very least, Melania is going to get deposed. And she will have to prove, beyond a reasonable doubt, that that's not what happened and that wasn't the origin of their relationship. So, like, if she really wants to go down this road and she really wants to do that, like, sure, whatever. That's fine with me. I'm literally Hunter Biden. I have nothing to lose. I don't care. And so this trilogy, this Hunter Biden trilogy has captivated me. It's really hard as I've sat through, I mean, cumulatively, how much footage has there been put out there? Like 4.5 hours, maybe close to 5 hours of conversation between Andrew Callahan and Hunter Biden. When I tell you I've listened to and watched every single minute of it, brother, from the bottom of my heart. You know what I mean? And it's hard for me, other than if I got really nitpicky with like certain things that he said about, it doesn't matter. He's just cool to me. And he is kind of always what I thought he was in my head, which was like a guy who got into some bad shit with like drugs and alcohol and women. But like even through all that was kind of a guy that the right made out to be like this scandalous dirtbag. And I'm like, he may be a little bit of a dirtbag, but he's like a funny dirtbag, like a cool one that seems, is harmless the right word? Inconsequential, I think, is maybe a better one. He wasn't the one running for president. Hunter Biden's laptop. What about Hunter Biden's laptop? And then you say, what about it? And then they fucking couldn't say anything about it. Well, I don't know. Just what's on it. It was just the Hillary email thing all over again. But the Hillary email thing, actually, her private email server, that did have merit to it. I don't think it should have lost her a damn election. I don't think that's what did lose her the election. But it certainly didn't help the FBI coming out with that like a month before the fucking election happened. Got put in people's brains. Like, yeah, these politicians, they operate in private channels. I've made the joke 1 million times on this show that with this current administration, or regime, as some people would say, not me, but, well, yes, me, but it's a regime, within the last 6 months, Pete Hegseth and Tulsi Gabbard and other various members of intelligence agencies and the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, were discussing bombing Yemen on Signal. OPSEC is secure. There's a journalist in here. They accidentally added a fucking journalist. I've made the joke 1 million times at this point. Yeah, it's like, quote unquote, unethical, but that's just like what they be doing. And so if you weren't mad about the Hillary email shit, you just couldn't be mad about the Signal shit. Even if you thought it was funny, you couldn't be mad about it. If you were mad about the private email servers, then you could be mad about the Signal shit. And so, I don't know, to triple up on the Hunter Biden interviews is just interesting. I just think he's an interesting guy to hear from. Even if I believe him sometimes when he's like, honestly, I don't know anything about anything and I'm just kind of talking here. Sometimes I believe him when he says that, depending on what it is. But other times, I just think he's a funny guy and I like listening to him talk. And I think Andrew Callahan is such a good, it's not even that he's a great interviewer, he's such a great listener. And by like not saying anything, he just gets so much out of his guests. And I think Dan Patrick is another guy, completely unrelated to all of this, but Dan Patrick is another guy that I think is brilliant at that. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, Spotify, I don't even know. I love you guys so much. I don't have a question for you. This has been such a, my head is in a pretzel from this episode, and I apologize. We're just going to end the show. I hope that's okay this week, or at least in this episode. Listen, it's almost 11 p.m., and I'm going to be up until 1:30 in the damn morning. I don't know if I'm going to have to edit this show, like bleep shit out. I don't know what's going to happen in this episode. I'm going to be up for a while, and I need to end the show. If you are Apple Podcasts, what's up? What's up? If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, nice little comment for the algorithm. Make sure to keep primary control in check. And I will catch you guys in the next one.
Beautiful, beautiful. Primary control. Beautiful. Primary control. Beautiful. Primary control.